Martin is here all the way from Back, which is close to Stornoway, Island Lewis. And as you can see, he was participating in the 2005 conference at Yale. And then in 2013, SPAE brought him over to teach in our schools, along with a Scots singer. So that's how I met Calum. And we got a little bit of Gaelic psalm singing going at St. Margaret of Scotland and at Peggy Nielsen's church up in Ferguson, St. Stephen's Episcopal. And so there was enough interest there that we decided to go full-blown with a real conference this year. So I'm happy to introduce, there he is, Calum Martin.
Well, thanks so much, Diane, and what a great job she has done organizing this special weekend. And it's so good to see so many of you here with us, and great to meet up with Willie once again and Douglas. And it's a real pleasure for me to come here. And like Willie, if you ever heard Willie before, always starts, he's such a character, aren't you, Willie? You're such a character. And I remember one time he was talking about the Martin Luther King, I have a dream. And I have a dream as well. And my dream is that Gaelic psalm singing will have a renaissance over here in America, where you guys are the guys that are going to start doing it, okay? And wouldn't it be amazing that what happened all these years ago over here could restart here once again over here in America. It's very interesting how all the barriers now seem to have come down. I've been over in Ireland recently doing psalm singing over there. And as you may or may not know, Gaelic psalm singing originated really on our place through the Presbyterian tradition. Now, although we are very much the same type of people in the islands, we have got, over the past, we had this religious divide, you may call it, where the Catholics lived on the Southern Isles and we lived in Lewis. Now, in the Presbyterian tradition, we were able to take what Diane spoke about, essentially the folk tradition or the Sean Norse singing style that we sing when we sing secular Gaelic songs. We were allowed to take that into our churches, and we were able to incorporate that within our singing style. Whereas in the Catholic tradition, that wasn't allowed way back then. But things have changed so much now. And like on the documentary where DR was speaking about that on our island and throughout Scotland, Gaelic psalm singing is on the way out. The young people want now to listen to English singing. That's what really appeals to them. And isn't it amazing? And wouldn't it be amazing for the Renaissance to happen? Maybe not even in the Presbyterian Church. To me, the Psalms belong to everyone. They don't belong to Presbyterians. They belong to everyone. And they're God's words. And we should always realize when we're handling the Psalms that this is God's manual of praise to us all. And this psalm that we're going to start working on, Psalm 16, I think the words right at the start of it, before me constantly I set the Lord alone. That is what I am doing here in coming to you. I'm so excited about bringing this tradition that I was brought up with from I can never remember a time where I wasn't exposed to it. I was taken into church when I was 3-4 years of age. I don't even know how I absorbed it. I couldn't have been understanding it. But in the midst of this singing, I was there, and my grandfather taught me the tunes. We were pulled into family worship morning and evening. That's where we learned how to do it in homes. And then the Sunday service was where it actually happened. So people ask, where do you rehearse? We don't rehearse, we don't practice, we just know it. It's just part of who we are. And the thing about the tunes, I mean, I'm not going to dwell too much on that because the thing about it, there's plenty of people that can talk about the history of it. My main aim here today is for us to practically do it, okay? And I don't want anyone to start being worried about their Gaelic being right. I don't want people to start focusing too much, I need to get the notes right, okay? I want us to start actually singing, okay? Now, we're so used to, when we do English stuff, and me being a music teacher and loads of musicians in here, we're brought up to be controlled by the bars, to be controlled by, we need to be right here and we better not make a mistake here. Gaelic psalm singing works in a mass of people like we've got here. Now, we have a Gaelic service every Sunday in Back Church where I am with about 80 to 100 people, right? Most of them over 70 years of age, okay? So, what I'm wanting to do is to replicate that here. Now, you may say to yourself, oh, I'm not sure how we can do this. Well, the way we can do it is we sing. We actually sing. So, this is what I want to do. I want to go through just the words. Now, you've got the words of Psalm 16. I'm going to go through 2 lines of it. And I'm going to say it roughly at the speed we're going to sing it. And I'm going to then do it a couple of times with you repeating it. And then we're going to sing it. I'm going to sing it once, and then you're going to repeat it. Now, in Gaelic psalm singing, as opposed to lining out, we always sing the first 2 lines as a congregation. Whereas, if we were going to be doing it hymn style, Amazing Grace, you start off straight away. Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. You're starting that straight away. With us, the presenter, just briefly to let you know, the presenter will come up, and he will start the first 2 lines. Now, the congregation don't know what the tune is, and then eventually halfway through the tune, like Diane mentions in her notes, which are really, really good, the people start to recognize the tune. They join in, and by the end of the 2nd line, this tune should be established in the congregation. And then the 3rd line is lined out and repeated, so on, right through to the end. So, let us just do the first 2 lines here, and then we'll try and see if we can sing it. Okay, I will go through it at the speed that we would roughly sing it at. Da chur mi ro ounce gach kush. Okay, let's try it. Da chur mi ro ounce gach kush. Excellent. And then the 2nd line, and she orn more angna. And she orn more angna. Okay, so that's really it. Now, I thought with the idea of actually giving you the basic tune all the way through, but I'm not going to do it. I'm actually going to sing it exactly the way that we would do it, because I think it can cause a bit of confusion. You could dwell too much on the tune. That's the tune. That's the bare notes. Don't think about it, because you'll start thinking too much about that. What I want you to do is to do it the way I would teach it to children. That is, they pick up exactly and they repeat what you actually sing. Okay, so let's just talk through it once more, and then I'm going to sing 1 line, and then you're going to sing it, okay? Da chur mi ro ounce gach kush and she arn more angna. Okay, now I'll sing it. Okay. Okay, let's try that. I don't want you to worry about it. Don't worry about your singing. Okay, let's do it. Hugh, did you find, when I listened to the Muskogee Indians doing that tune, I found that very close to Kilmarnock, which is the tune we're doing, the first part of it. So the reason why I'm saying don't dwell too much on the melody is that to a large extent, they're so similar in a lot of ways, okay? And eventually the more you do it, the more you will learn the melodies afterwards. So the focus for me would be, let's do it. And then let's worry about getting the Gaelic right and finding the tunes later on. Because I think it's important for us to really do this. Okay, so let's go through it again. Feel free now and don't worry about adding your grace notes. Okay, put them in. No one is going to turn around and go like, oh. That's the great thing, because Gaelic psalm singing is two things. It's vertically a worship between you and God, vertically individual acts of worship, and corporately amongst a whole group. Okay, and everyone is free to do their own thing. And within a large group, and we're large enough for this to happen, we will accommodate all the great singers, all the not so great singers, and maybe even down as far as all the rubbish singers. Because the great thing about Gaelic psalm singing is everyone takes part. It's really important. Everyone takes part. It's not a choir, it's a congregation. Let's sing it. Here we go. Sounds great. Let's look at the next line. Okay, let's do the two lines. That's the way that'll work. We'll do the first line and we'll go into the second line. So, that's the first two lines. That's the way the Gaelic psalm singing will always start. Everyone together will sing the first two lines. And then, Hioner mo yes life, I would then line that out and you would repeat it. So I want us to keep at this first two lines until we feel comfortable with it. Okay? And start feeling free to just add your own additional grace notes to it. Here we go. I'm going to pull out this time halfway through just to hear what you sound like. Right, here we go. good. And then I then do the presenting line. So this time, let's do it again, and I will do the first presenting line, and then we'll stop. Here we go. What I've done. Okay, so the presenting line is The presenting line sometimes doesn't really bear a huge amount of resemblance to the melody. It very rarely strays much beyond 3 notes. Sometimes it's maybe 1 note all the way through. And I think originally, when Gaelic psalm singing first of all started, well, first of all, the Gaelic psalms were introduced at the Synod of Argyll in 1659, where the first 50 Gaelic psalms were given for the first time. And then by the end of that century, about 1694, the whole Gaelic psalms were introduced. So in other words, they were just given out, no music, nothing. That was it. So for about 100 years, no one really knows what actually happened, but we suspect that people must have started using some tunes. Now, Gaelic psalms really use basically all European and Southern tunes. There are no tunes in Gaelic psalm singing apart from Stornoway, which we'll do, which is the only tune that was written on the islands, written probably around 1856, 1850, around that sort of life. So basically, they're simple lowland tunes from the Scottish Psalter that were just used. And originally, Gaelic psalms had 6 tunes. They were called the 6 long tunes, of which only 3 of them are in use nowadays. Dundee, that's used. French is used. Martyrs is used. The other tunes, I've never heard them. Stilt, Elgin, and London. So they were the 6 tunes. They were called the 6 long tunes. Now, we don't really have any record of what it sounded like. I was asking my mother, who's 93, has she ever heard Gaelic psalm singing done differently in her youth from what it's done today? And she said no. The only difference is that way back in the 50s, we sang it much slower. We speed up because of everything speeded up. So essentially, in our lifetime, and going back probably 100-odd years, Gaelic psalms are exactly as you're actually doing it there just now. The presenters really depended on who was the prominent people in the areas. And when I first of all started doing Gaelic psalm singing, I listened to certain presenters, and I modeled myself on them. And then eventually you get your own style. That's really what it's all about. So the presenting line is not any written music. It's very da 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 da. That's the way it is. But you then repeat, the congregation repeats the melody following reasonably closely to the tune, Kilmarnock. Okay, so let's go back to it again. So anyone got any questions at all? Diane?
Yes. When we come in, we start in the text where the presenter is at that time, or do we start at the beginning of the text?
Well, I mean, for this purpose, we're actually starting right at the beginning. But in an actual service, if you can imagine, you guys don't know what the tune is going to be. Okay, you have to listen to what the presenter, what tune he does. It's never announced. It's a strange thing that Gaelic has that. English people know what the tune is because it's told to them. Traditionally, the presenter's got a huge amount of pressure on them. The minister goes up to the thing. He announces the psalm in Gaelic in the old-fashioned way. Okay, it's not like the new Gaelic. It's the old-fashioned way. Like Psalm 16 would be in Hiau Salam Chiak. Let's say, for example, it would be Psalm 50. Nowadays, they would say Kogat. That's the word for a thing. But the way that you would do it is Hiau Salam Harisheda Na Ichet. The 10th Psalm plus 2 times 20. That's the old way of doing it. That's the literal translation. So you've got to listen. That's the way that you would do it. So the presenter has got to listen to the psalm, find the psalm, and as the minister reads through the words, you've got to pick a tune that's going to be suitable. This is all going on, and the congregation don't know, because all the congregation are doing is they're finding the psalm. So the minister has read, and he'll read maybe 6 or 7 verses. Then he will say, we will now sing from, in this case, in Hiau Salam Jiag, van een nog round, from the 8th verse, down 2 verses, and then he will repeat these first 2 lines. And the reason for him repeating it is that it goes back to the time when people couldn't read. Okay, so they've got to remember these first 2 lines, even if they couldn't read it. I mean, nowadays, it's, people can read, so there's no problem, and everyone's got Bibles. But this started at a time where very few people had Bibles, and very few people could read. So they are remembering these 2 lines, and then thereafter, they listen to the presenter. And once the presenter lines out, supposedly very clearly, they just repeat it. Okay, so that's the system, Diane. So basically, I would start, and roughly about Rome, they would start to realize what it is. Now, there's a few pitfalls here, because some tunes start off very similar. For example, Glencairn and Evan, the first 3 notes are similar. So you can have a situation, a congregation, where half the people think, I know the tune. So they would, let's say you were going to do, there's the 2 examples. Evan goes, duh, 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 duh. That's the first 4 notes. Glencairn, duh, 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 duh. So you could start off, heard me. That's fine. But then half the congregation goes, ro, and the other go, ro. So, and then you'll have a bit of a clash. That's where the presenter needs to really, really be strong and say, no, no. And some old ladies can be very stubborn. They'll keep it going. They'll keep it going. Oh, I got it. So it's a tradition. It's a strange tradition that people find strange. Why do we not tell? But that's the way it's always been. They just don't tell the tunes. Maybe it's to allow the presenter to feel moved at that particular time so that he's not thinking about, what am I going to do? Let's do it this way. So here we are, first 2 lines, but for us, we will join in right at the start. And let's go right into the presenting line, okay? As you can see, the presenting line is much faster. And then when you come to sing it, we go back to slow again. Okay, so we have now got a very authentic start. You are actually not starting until we hit Rome, which is exactly the way it would be. The presenter would start, and by the time you hit Rome, you're all joining in. And then when we go to the start of the next verse, we would all be joining in together. Okay, so the other thing about Gaelic psalm singing is there is no silence. No silence. Everyone takes breaths at different times. There is no silence. So at the end of, when you're saying, while you're singing, the presenter is coming in over the top of you with a line. And then while he's finishing the end of his line, some presenters will hold on to the note, which is quite dodgy if the congregation can go into another tune. Normally, what most good presenters would do is they would bring the congregation in. So he would be going, and you would start singing together with the presenter. So let's try that. So let's go to the words. Let's try it. Once more. Mo, yes, live, gu, vel, e. Okay, so now we're going to sing the first two lines, and I'm going to present that last line, and when I come to the e, you then all join in along with me on that note, e, and then we'll then do the tune. Now I know you're saying to yourselves, oh, what is the tune? Don't worry about it. We just sing it. Okay, here we go. Okay, so that's the first verse done. Okay, and then from then on, we then start the second verse with a presenting line. Okay, so anyone got any questions? Sounds great, by the way. Sounds really good. You might be thinking, oh, it sounds really good.
Just out of curiosity, what's the name of this tune?
Kilmarnock. The tune's called Kilmarnock. Okay, and I don't want to dwell too much on Kilmarnock, but let me just sing it quickly too. Kilmarnock is Dachur mi roa mounds gachush an hi on morang ra Hion moges life guvele chagloa mi gubrach. That's the way we'll do it if we're going to do it in English. The Lord's my shepherd, I'll not want. He makes me down to lie. In pastures green he leadeth me, the quiet waters by. Now that's our English equivalent. I don't go to the English. I go to the Gaelic. Okay, the English guys will do that. They might even do some harmony. They might even do SATB. Okay, so what? Nothing like heterophonic Gaelic. That's what I like. Okay, so that's the tune. Diane?
Bridget, you can, on the practice CD here, it has those names. You can also go online to the Scottish Psalter and get the printed out for the hymn.
Yeah. I mean, the settings basically are all from the Scottish Psalter. We've got this, you've seen it, Willie, haven't you, the split book that we have. So basically, in our Scottish Psalter psalmody that we use in our church, the top has got all the tunes, and the soprano is always the melody. So all our Gaelic psalms are taken from the soprano melody. That's what it is. And all these tunes, we do them in English as well, at that sort of fast speed. But Kilmarnock, I like Kilmarnock. I think Kilmarnock is a great tune. It works really well in Gaelic psalm singing. Okay, so let's try it again. Sounds really, really good. I mean, the thing about Gaelic psalm singing is it's something that develops over years. It's not like going in a choir where you go in and you learn something and you do it straight away. It's like wine. It takes years to develop. From 1957, the earliest recordings that we've got from the BBC in 1957, 2 verses of this tune would last 4 minutes, maybe even more, 4.5 minutes. Nowadays, us singing it, we probably do about 3 minutes, something like that. So it's the whole thing about it is we could end up really stretching it out. Let's try it slower. I tend to be not that keen on slow because sometimes it drags a wee bit, but let's try it. Because do you feel yourselves at the moment that so long as there's someone reasonably strong, the presenter keeps the main melody, that even if you go wrong, you can feel yourself time to pull back into the thing, and no one is going to really notice? Because I think it allows you that huge freedom of ornamenting it in your own style. And then, some people get totally carried away with the ornaments. Totally carried away. And then they realize, oh, hold on, I'm way behind. No, I better catch up.
Calum, can I say one more thing for anybody who is wanting to follow this? We're going straight through the first 2 lines here, and then word-wise, the 3rd line, the words get repeated, and then the 4th line, the words are getting repeated. Okay? I'm sure many of you figured that out.
But I think it's good to reinforce it because sometimes I actually think, because I'm so used to it, that it's very easy for people to understand, but it's not for a lot of people. Just getting used to the idea. The first 2 lines, we've got, in Gaelic psalm singing, there is only 1 meter. That's the great thing about it. In English, you've got loads of meters, long meter, short meter, 10, 10, 10, 10. This is 8, 6, 8, 6. Do you understand what I mean by common ballad meter, 8, 6? 8 being da, chud, mi, do, da, 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 da. That's why it's 8, 6, 8, 6. All psalms, all Gaelic psalms are that 1 meter. So every tune will work for every psalm. So the only thing the presenter has to do is he's got to work out whether I do a very modal, minor mode type song for the words that maybe are a bit more deep, or are we doing an up-tempo, joyous psalm tune, like Moravia or a few of these other tunes. So, yeah, sure.
What are we meant to do while you are presenting the 3rd and 4th lines? Are we quiet or are we...
You're totally quiet. No, you're totally quiet, but you join in towards the end. And I'll tell you the thing that actually happens is when the Spirit of the Lord moves, Douglas will confirm this, one real indication, and I've noticed, that's the one thing I noticed with the blacks down in Alabama, what they like to join in. And I think we're very reserved, Willie, aren't we? I mean, that's one of our problems. We don't clap. We had our group trying to clap, and we were clapping totally out of time. Remember when you were in back, Willie? We tried to do some clapping. We couldn't even do it. So, the thing about it is joining in towards the end of the presenting lines, perfectly acceptable. So not just joining in at the end of, you could join in at Guvele, you could join in right there. Join in with me presenting as well. Because what would be even brilliant is to get one of you guys to actually try the presenting before we finish. It would be really good. Yes? Oh, I just sang as an example.
Oh,
yeah.
But this is what...
That's just a translation. That's just one of the translations. See, that translation actually is probably not a common translation. See, that's the problem you have with all the different English translations of the Psalms. Unless you actually, before we... that's not a common English translation. No. So you wouldn't be able to sing that melody to that.
No, you couldn't do it.
So that's it. So I think the thing to do is you can look at the English just to see what the words are, but focus totally on the Gaelic.
This English is what is...
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's just translation. And like Diane said, don't be too worried about the phonics, because everyone will have... It's very close to it, I think. The phonics being just the way that you repeat what I say. But everyone's going to do it slightly different. I won't worry too much about getting the Gaelic title. If you guys are really interested in this, you will go after this whole thing is finished and you will listen to the Gaelic and you will eventually get it. The thing that's going to take the time is the musical form. That's what's definitely going to take the time. We get it on great. Okay, so let's do the first verse again. Any volunteers to do the presenting? Bit early, do you think? Bit early, okay. Don't want to encourage Willie, otherwise he'll be up here with his French horn, trying to tackle it. Okay, here we go. The other thing about Gaelic psalm singing that's very interesting is it's always at the top end of the scale. Kilmarnock written down is in E flat. Gaelic psalm singing works best when it's right at the top end of the scale, where you're hitting the F sharps and possibly even going into the high Gs, you know. Some people really stay, but there's something about it being at the top end. Whereas if the presenter pitches, that's where the presenter is really important. The presenter also doesn't have any pitching. He's just got to go for it. And sometimes they can pitch it wrong and cause the congregation loads of problems, especially if they pitch it far too low because... And another good sign of great psalm singing is holding the pitch all the way through to the end. If you start off with your pitch high, and by the end of the third verse, the congregation is down in your boots, you know these people are not in good wavelength. They're not spiritually. Douglas will confirm this. There's nothing that a minister likes more than hearing great psalm singing, because the service starts with psalm singing. And if the psalm singing is terrible, the poor minister's got to stand up after that psalm's finished and go, oh. Totally, isn't that right, Douglas? Ministers tell me that all the time, you know. Anyway, here we go. Are saying the third and fourth line, I haven't really gone over the tune with you. I did that purposely just to get you, because it's the style that you need to really get used to. This communal singing together. Let me now sing the four lines without presenting. Okay? Slow Gaelic style. Here we go. And you can join in. You got no idea how hard that was for me, because I'm so used to doing it with presenting lines and things. I have to really think about the tune. And eventually that's what you guys will have to do as well. You'll have to think about it. And it's not helped by the presenter lining out something that bears no real resemblance, or sometimes doesn't bear hardly any resemblance to what you're going to repeat. I suspect, Douglas, would you think that way back when they did the long tunes, that people presented very much what the congregation repeated? See, we don't really know that for definite.
I've been told that, but I think it's probably right.
Yeah. So in other words, the presenter would actually pretty much present the melody for them at a much faster pace, but it would be the melody that you would copy. Unfortunately, I suppose, from my point of view, what people tended to do was, once they knew that they didn't need to rely on the fact that they didn't read, they knew that they could read, there was no problem. The presenters then started putting their own style in on it. And then you get well-named presenters, like in Lewis, Ynys Vragath was a named guy. He lived over in America for years. He went back home. He became known as the #1 presenter. And that, I suppose, happens in everything. Muskogee Indians, I'm sure, will have certain people that are well known as being, exponents and real exponents of it. So you have different people doing it. So it developed into just, I could actually do that, presenting lines slightly different every time, because everyone would do it slightly different. Instead of, someone else would do, they would just do slight variations, not melodically different. Still probably just the same 3 notes, but the timing of it would vary. So the presenting line really is very individualistic. Okay, so, and I think it's just something that you always look towards the future. Let's say, for example, over here, this Gaelic psalm singing thing takes off. Let's hope it does. I bet you that within a couple of years, you would have presenters would start developing their own style, and people would recognize it. We've got a presenter today. Jay Harkey is going to be our presenter. He's well known in the area as being an exponent of it because he's been developing it over a period of time, or whoever. You know what I mean? So that's the way psalm singing really is. It develops over a period of time. And meantime, everyone in the congregation is enjoying this communal singing. It's not a choir. Everyone takes part. You don't have to be a great singer. Some of the best presenters, stylistically, are not great singers. And sometimes great secular singers can't present. Okay? And I think in here we've got a mixture, Diane, of loads of people. People that are really great musical people and people that don't really know. How many people in here haven't got a clue about scales or music generally? Willie Ruff especially. See, that's one of the reasons why you can become professor in Yale. Okay, so, that's the whole idea. There are presenters that we've got in the church, and you ask them after they've finished presenting, what was that tune? They haven't got a clue. They couldn't tell you it's Kilmarnock. They just know it. Okay, and if you said to some of them, oh, you pitched that a bit high. What do you mean I pitched it high? It sounded fine to me. They haven't got a clue, So will we focus, Diane, on this? Because I was toying with the idea of actually going to another tune. I think it might be a bit. Would it be better for us just to focus on Kilmarnock and get Kilmarnock done? I think so.
For this hour, yes.
Yes.
If we could go through just the Gaelic, just the language for the second verse.
Okay, so let's go through the Gaelic with the second verse. Okay, I'll go through the Gaelic with you. And as I say, what you can do is, as I speak it really slowly, you can alter the phonics below it to suit yourselves. Whatever you hear me saying, my Gaelic is perfect. It's Lewis Gaelic, it's not Uist Gaelic, it's not Skye Gaelic. Skye Gaelic is pretty rubbish, isn't it? Okay, here we go. Mochri ni eifnes immerschen. Let's say it. Mochri ni eifnes immerschen. Once more. Mochri ni eifnes immerschen. And then the second one. Ní gardochas mogloth. Ní gardochas mogloth. I'm saying Lord because that's the way we sing it. Okay. Ní gardochas mogloth. That's really hard to do it monotonically because I want to sing it, but so I'm trying to say it to you at roughly the speed and with the phrases roughly where the accents are going to be. And then, Ní miol fos coni oshjanoch. Now that's quite a hard one. Ní miol fos coni oshjanoch. One more time. Ní miol fos coni oshjanoch. Okay, so some people would say oshjanoch, other people would say oshjinoch. It just depends which place you come from. I wouldn't worry about that too much. You just write it down, oshjanoch, as close as you hear me saying it. Last line, le gian dochas mor. Le gian dochas mor. Okay, now let's go through the whole psalm from beginning to end and then we'll sing it, okay? You speak it along with me and we'll do it roughly at our psalm singing speed. Okay. Dochur mi roam aanskach kush angiorn mor angra hyom eth mo yes live guvel e chagluashar mi gubrach mochri ni eifnas Immersion ni gardochas mogloth ni miol fos coni oshjanoch legion andochas more. And that's it. Okay. So it's quite. Do you find it really, really hard? Do you find it really hard? Does it make it any easier, the fact that we're doing it so slow? Yeah. Because the thing about it is it gives time. And you know, that's why I'm now, having done this with yourselves, because every time I do a psalm singing workshop, it depends from place to place. Like when I do it in Ireland with, let's say, a Catholic church over in Ireland, their Gaelic is so similar to ours, we don't have a problem with the language, okay? And the style of singing is very similar to us, so they pick it up a lot quicker because it's part of them. You know, it's just, we're the same people, man. We are the same people. Us and the Irish, Connemara, Donegal, we are the same people. And I'm really excited about Ireland. I love Ireland. You know, there's just something in my heart when I go over there. I feel I'm home. You know, it's great, man. And all these barriers we had all these years, what were they all about? Crazy. Here we go. Let's sing it.
Thank you.
Sounds great. Now, if you've noticed, the first two lines that we sing together as a congregation, they are exactly the same two lines that we start the second verse with. Okay, so Da chud mi romans kuj, line 1, is exactly the same as Mochrini Oivnes Emission. Can you see that? The only difference is that whereas we sing the first two lines together, the first time you're going to hear a presenting line is when you come to Mochrini Oivnes Emission. And that's what throws people, because the first time they've done it, we've sang the two lines without presenting, without a line. And now what we're doing is we're now doing the same melody, but it's being preceded by a presenting line. And once that's established, from then on, however many verses you do, it's the same format. So the only thing that's different is the first two lines. We could, but it's not part of a tradition, we could actually start the whole thing Baptist style by starting the thing from the beginning by presenting line. But you see, we don't do it like that, because unless you knew what the tune was, you couldn't do it. So that's the reason. And it's really unique. I think, Willie, I'm right in saying it's unique to Gaelic where we do these two lines. Every other tradition lining out, they start straight away. I think that's the case. Doing the hymns. Certainly in the church that Willie was talking about down in Kiln, they actually start off by singing it straight away. Okay. So anyone else got any questions? What are we like time-wise, Diane? Are we... Well, can we just do one more run through the whole thing from beginning to end? And then we'll just break then. So listen, it's great, man. I'm really encouraged to hear you singing. I know that it's a struggle for some of you. I mean, it's difficult to keep awake, man. What we really need is the thing that really appeals to me that Willie said, what they do in back, which we would love to do, Willie, singing down the preacher. So when the guy goes on a bit too much, someone stands up and starts singing. So if Reverend Douglas Kelly is there giving it loudly, thinking it's getting on really well, all of a sudden someone starts singing. Yeah. What do you mean by repeating?
Yeah, it's like first line 1 and line 2, and then you repeat line 3 and 4.
Yeah. From then on, everything's repeated. Everything's repeated. Yeah. So there are only two that are not repeated on the first two lines, which establishes the tune. From then on, everything is repeated. So when you come to the first line in the second verse, the reason why people get thrown is that this is the first time we've heard it being repeated after a line. Whereas at the start we sang it without that. So let's just go through it from beginning to end. Here we go.